Good day to you and welcome, I'm Localization, and today I'm gonna talk about Epistory translation. Now, last time I've more or less talked about translation in general, also if you want to take a look in there, take a look at the previous video, where there is more or less my largest concern about how the industry right now works in terms of translations, or localization, depends on what you want to call it and what you actually do within the game. Now, today I want to give you a specific example of what I did and how it worked, and this is a great example because the game is really good. It is an interesting project. It actually gives a pretty interesting translating project too, not just in terms of game. So, Epistory, as you can see, is a game with narration where it's more or less a slightly action RPG, I would say, but most of all it's a typing game, and all your enemies and all obstacles you deal with them by going into typing mode and typing words, of course, different lengths and different, I would say, types of words. Now these types are more or less like topics. So, for example, right now you can see this is in Czech, this is the translation itself. All these stones are actually, all these words on stones are actually words related to stones in geology. That's pretty neat. If you have any stashes, any, let's say, fortunes, these things, you actually get topics about money and stuff around it. If once there is a fire surrounding it, you have fire-related vocabulary. And that was extremely difficult, mostly because the game, and I think I can say this, I will not show any of the scripts, I will just give you a basic information about how it worked. The Czech localization actually has over 3,000 different words that you have to type in, which are randomly generated. However, they are semi-randomly generated based on topics. So sometimes you can see one word in one fight 2 times. That can happen, of course. However, very often you might not actually find one duplicity in 1 or 2 or even 3 fights, depending on the topic and depending on the size of the words. I believe that the number when I translated it was larger than the English original in many cases, and the translation itself was a completely different translation than I have ever done before. Not partially, mostly, because there were two files that I had to translate. One of them was the scripts, so all the narration, menus, these things, that was pretty standard in the end. However, the second part was this Scrabble-like translation where you have to keep the meaning, where you don't have to keep the meanings, your goal is to come up with more words. So some of them are translations, of course, to keep it and to give you like a background of what you're supposed to do, and then I built upon it more and more. And that was really interesting, because just thinking right away about, let's say, 30 words that have 3 or 4 characters and are in the topic of fire or fire and heat related, that is very difficult. And the translation itself took me, let's say, a month just creating it, and then there was another period of actually checking it and revising everything. So it took some time, and it wasn't just that it was not my livelihood, it was actually like a side job I did during the evenings or during the weekends. And that's how more or less today a lot of translators work. It's just a side job. You, at least in my country, in my language, a lot of translators can't just be translators and continue full-time translating. That is something you can do if you cannot do anything better, I believe. Or if you're doing technical stuff. But let's get back to Epistory. Now, this posed also quite an issue in terms of Czech language, because Czech language has 15 more letters than English. You can see some of the special letters in there. There are accents. It is similar if you know Spanish or German. It has these umlauts or special types of special types of accent, different accents. So you have to type that in. At least Czech keyboard is actually okay with that until you go into, I believe, four specific symbols that require a combination of shift and a shift, a one key and letter. So that is difficult. And because of that, because you don't just use 24 letters, but you actually have to use 35 letters, or actually more, 39 letters, or 35 plus the combination of the 4, the game is of a lot of higher difficulty. Like, it is comparatively more difficult in Czech than it is in English. It is more difficult than it is, I believe, even in German, because in German you have less letters. You have, I believe, 29 or something like that. Now, this posed a bit of a problem, because in this game you actually later on get more special abilities. Right now, at this video, you saw me actually getting a ability of fire, which in Czech would be not usually oheň. However, there is this special symbol ň, and you don't want to have this special symbol which requires a shift key and the letter to do it. So I chose a different one, which is actually on the keyboard. It is not as common, it is shorter, but it once again requires a special symbol because it is just Czech and we have diacritics. However, it is on the number of 6, so it's okay. You don't even have to press shift once you have a Czech keyboard on. So that was okay. There are these problems that have to be taken care of. A good example might be one of the abilities, which is like lightning, let's say. It is not actually, what you get is not actually lightning, I believe, in original. I can't recall the original one. However, the proper translation of it would be probably, I think it was spark actually. Yes, it was. However, because it is lightning related, the easiest one was blesk. However, there is a lot of words that have this kind of root, so that was out of the question. However, a literal translation of the word spark is iskra, and there is actually vowel shift if you want to make an adjective out of it, which means that it's a unique word. Well, I hope that you enjoy this a bit. I hope that this actually showed you just a bit on how Epistory actually works, or how the translation of such a project might work, because it is not a standard project. More or less right now you can see what is very often a standard project, that there is narration. However, Epistory added that one extra layer of randomly generated words, and that was one of the most fun I have ever had in translation. But hope that you enjoy this. If you have any experience with translating, if you have any experience with Epistory, well, share down below, and thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Until it happens.